and I am the class of 2023 for the Student Leadership Johns Creek. And I am also part of the Secretary of State Ambassador team. And it's my pleasure to introduce our Mayor, Mike Bodker. Some background information on him is that he has been in the Metro Atlanta area ever since he was 5 years old. And on November 7, 2006, he was elected as our first mayor of Johns Creek, Georgia. He is also a partner in Next Dimension Technology Solution, and Mayor Mike Bodker was president of his Homeowners Association and a board member of the Johns Creek Community Association prior to becoming mayor of Johns Creek. Mayor Mike Bodker has built many strong connections throughout the state and nation during his 15 years of service to our community. He has been a strong supporter of Student Leadership Johns Creek, speaking to each class each year, and encouraging initiatives such as the City and State Debate our Secretary of State Ambassador team has facilitated during the past 4 years. Mayor Mike Bodker has twins who recently graduated from Chattahoochee High School and a daughter who attends kindergarten in Johns Creek. Thank you for your help and support in preparing for upcoming debates. Now I will let him take it away, so please give a wonderful applause and welcome Mayor Mike Bodker.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all doing? You excited to be in the program? Yes, sir. So you may not realize it yet, but you will at some point later in your careers. This is a big deal. And it's a big deal not just because it was really hard to get into the program, which I know it was, and it's not a big deal because you're kind of the best of the best, which you are. And it's a big deal because it gives you some bragging rights, and yes, it'll help you get into college and all those great things, but the real reason it's a big deal is because of the skills that you're going to gain, the friends you're going to make, and the camaraderie that you're going to learn through this process. And it's an evolution as you go through it over the 2-year program. I've had the opportunity since the program got started to see a lot of young folks go through this and to see the result. I've even heard from some after they've gotten in college and beyond. It's just a really great thing, and I want to congratulate you for making it this far. My kids did not. In fact, last night we did an Eagle Scout ceremony, did 2 Eagle Scout ceremonies where we got to give certificates and a book to some rising Eagle Scouts. One of them happened to be the roommate of my son at Kennesaw State University, and I don't normally participate in the Eagle Scout ceremony. There has to be a personal connection between me and the Eagle Scout because I tried to leave it for the councils so that they could have something fun to do throughout their time as council members, because I kind of get to do most of the ceremonial things. And so this one came in, and I didn't recognize the name, and I said to my assistant, I can't do this, I don't have a connection. She goes, it's your son's roommate. And so after I realized that, I started studying his background, and I realized he's a whole lot smarter than my son. And I've let my son know that. But the truth is, you all are extremely smart. You're extremely gifted. There's a reason why you got selected for this, and I hope you take full advantage of the program. I understand that some of you have already selected the Macedonia Cemetery as your project. I'll go ahead and say thank you to that. It's not public knowledge yet, but within the next week or so, the city will actually own the cemetery. We had to go through a court process to do that, and we were informed that we've basically completed that process at this point, and as soon as the court processes a check that we had to pay in, then we will own the cemetery. The reason that's important is up until now, we've had the right to kind of clean it up, but we haven't had the right to do anything to it, to actually preserve it and protect it. So now the city will have full control, and we'll utilize groups like yourself to help make those things a reality. For those of you who are still selecting a project, I heard some of you are considering, not that I'm trying to jade you toward one, but I know it's a good cause, the Johns Creek Public Safety Foundation. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's chaired currently by Steve Broadbent, a former council member and one of our mayor pro tems. And that foundation is designed to provide funding to the families of a fallen or injured firefighter or police officer. and that's a big deal. It also, and this is the fun part, it also is the organization that pays for the bulletproof vests that are issued to our canine officers. And they really are canine officers. They're sworn in. I know, I've done the swearing in ceremonies. And they're very important parts of our police department. As an example, I remember I received a phone call that Autry Mill Middle School was closed down, and folks were wondering why. So they called, of course, they called the mayor, like I know. And I called our police chief and I said, hey, is there a reason why Autry Mill is closed down? He said, yes, we are chasing a bank robber, and they ran near the school, and luckily right before they got to the school, because they were gonna go in the school to hide out, right before they got to the school, the canine officer actually caught them and stopped them and held them until the police officer could get there, because they were faster than the officer could run. I guess that officer probably had too many donuts, but I get in trouble for those kind of comments. Anyway, so really my purpose in coming here is just to say congratulations, to wish you well as you embark on the program, the juniors, as you embark on the program, the seniors, as they continue through the program. I certainly always want to make myself available to answer any questions that you may have. I want to thank the ambassadors for the upcoming debates. I want to apologize in advance. I will not be at the debates for two reasons. One, I feel like when you are leaving office, and for me it's a very long time I've been in office, this is my 15th year, you should do it quietly. And with one exception, I've tried to be as quiet as I can. As I've left office, I did file a challenge against one of the candidates for some questions that needed to be cleared up. Those questions have now been cleared. That candidate is still qualified to run for office. The remaining questions she'll have to deal with the Secretary of State, because I've challenged the fact that I believe she's illegally voted 3 times. But that will be dealt with the appropriate legal authorities. So that said, I won't be at the debates because I feel like the candidate should have their opportunity to shine, and if I'm sitting in the room, then the question will be, what did Mayor Bodker think? I will probably not even watch them. The reason for that is more emotional. It's very difficult after you've been doing this for this long to head out. So with that, is there any questions I can answer?
Anybody have any questions?
This is gonna be really bad if there's no questions. Yes?
What was like your best or like favorite thing as mayor?
So people ask me that, and it has nothing to do with being mayor, really. My favorite thing of being mayor was a opportunity that I had to bring special needs kids from around Metro Atlanta to the circus for free for special performance. What happened was I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which I was in leadership at, and they make a big deal when America's mayors come together. These are the big city mayors, cities of 35,000 or larger, mayor of New York, mayor of Los Angeles, mayor of Philadelphia, mayor of Johns Creek. And we were in Rhode Island, and right next to our hotel was the Dunkin' Donuts Center, their arena, where their basketball team plays. And they say to us, we're gonna have dinner at the Dunkin' Donuts arena. We didn't think much of it. We walk in, we walk onto the floor of the arena, and all of the seats that would normally be looking at the floor were all draped with these black drapes. You couldn't see the seats. So it was literally the floor, and there's these big round tables. And the big round tables were spaced really awkwardly far apart. And we're all kind of looking there. We sit down, we start having dinner, and all of a sudden the lights come on, trapeze are above us, and elephants start walking between us. They perform the Barnum and Bailey circus around us. That wasn't the big deal. The big deal was I was looking at the table across from me, and there's a little girl, and she's mesmerized. She was there with her mom and dad. I'm assuming her dad was the mayor. And I noticed the mom and dad are crying. And I thought, well, that's odd. She's happy. They're crying. And so I walked up to them afterwards, and I said, can you explain to me what the big deal was? And they said, she's special needs. For her to have her attention captured for more than an hour is truly a gift. I thought to myself, that's a pretty cool thing. So I come back to Atlanta. I'm speaking to a friend of mine who happens to be the CEO of Gas South. And he says, what did you get out of your trip? And I said, what I got out of my trip was, it was really cool to watch this special needs child be mesmerized by the circus. Could we repeat that in Atlanta? He thought I literally meant, like on the floor, people eating, the whole thing. He goes to Barnum and Bailey and said, you're crazy. End result was, he ended up sponsoring us bringing special needs kids from all over Metro Atlanta to the circus for I can't remember how many years, so many years until the circus basically ended. That to me is the kind of thing you get to do because you have the power of the office of mayor. Yes.
What would you say was your biggest challenge and what's the most thing you learned from it?
So the biggest challenge for any elected official is telling someone no. They have a really hard time doing that. Elected officials tend to be motivated by getting their next vote. If you want to do the job right, you do the right thing. And if you always do the right thing, most people will figure out you're worth voting for. So learning the art of telling someone something they don't want to hear, but explaining to them the logic of why was the hardest thing to learn. Took me a number of years. After a while, you kind of get it down. One of the things that I am known for at City Hall is when my staff has tried to say no a lot of times and people are still belligerent, I'll pick up the phone and call that person because one, I'm not going to allow them to be belligerent with the staff, and then secondly, because I've found a way to help them understand no is no. Yes, ma'am.
What do you plan on doing after you leave office?
So I have always worked throughout the time that I was in office because this is not a job. It's a volunteer gig, so to speak. I get paid $25,000 a year to be the mayor, which I don't know about you all, but it's hard to live on $25,000, and I never did it for the money. I recently started a new career, the career that Ava mentioned when she talked about the fact that I'm a partner in Next Dimension. I've done that for about 30 years. I got bored with it. I'm actually just now launching a new consulting practice where I'm going to help businesses connect up with government officials, since I have a lot of relationships. And that's very valuable to them because that gives them a foot in the door of doing business with government. So that's what I've started doing. I have a few clients and I'm really enjoying it, and that's what I'll be doing going forward. The nice thing is it's going to give me a chance to travel internationally. Yes, ma'am.
Why did you want to become mayor?
I never wanted to become mayor. I told one of the student leadership groups one year that the way I would describe me becoming mayor was frog in the pot. I don't know if you all understand the concept that if you put a frog in a pot of boiling water, the frog is smart enough to jump out. But if you put a frog in a pot of lukewarm water, it just swims around, and as you heat up the water, it becomes soup. Well, the way I became mayor was very similar to that. I was on the Johns Creek Community Association, having been my HOA president, and Sandy Springs was about to become a city. They had fought for 29 years to become a city. And their argument was that money that was raised in Sandy Springs was being exported to other parts of the county and not used in Sandy Springs where it was needed, because that's where all the growth was. And I thought to myself, well, if they become a city, and their argument is all this money is being taken away from them, Fulton County will want to take that money from someone else. Well, who else are they going to take it from but Johns Creek and what would become Milton? And so I started arguing that we needed to look into cityhood. And before we looked into cityhood, I was asked to go talk to the mayor of Alpharetta and the mayor of Roswell and ask them if they would annex in or take over parts of Johns Creek. And the rule was they had to basically divide up Johns Creek between them. Both mayors gave me about 10 minutes and very rudely pushed me out of their offices and told me to go to some places that hopefully none of you end up in. And so then I went back to the legislator and I said, hey, they've rejected us, so what are we going to do? And he said, well, let's go form our own city. So I started the effort of working with the organization that was studying whether cityhood made sense. Then the mayor of Roswell decided to get into a big pissing match with us because he wanted to steal what would be Johns Creek. I started fighting him and debating him, and by the time we got to the point of July 18th of 2006, when the vote for Johns Creek was, I was so synonymous because I was the guy that was doing all the debates and having all the discussions in the newspaper that it was sort of expected that I would run for mayor. So I sort of became mayor whether I liked it or not. And I've been mayor ever since. Yes, sir.
What leadership quality do you think is most important from an elected official?
Honesty, but we don't find that often with elected officials. And it's not that they're overtly dishonest, it's that they tend to want to cast things in the most positive light. And in doing that, sometimes they don't tell the complete story. And I've tried to operate with a simple belief, and that is that everyone else is as smart as I am. And I don't consider myself that smart. If I give them the same information, as human beings, we are all operating with the same set of facts. We may go about the thought process differently But given the same facts, we're gonna arrive at the same conclusion, with two exceptions. If you know something I don't know and that's in your thought process and you don't share it with me, or you take a fact that I'm counting as a fact and you discount it away, then you might come to a different conclusion. If you want to see all that happen in real time, look at juries. Juries are fed a defined set of facts. The reason that some jurors agree or disagree is either they're biased and they were going to decide however they were going to decide no matter what, or they didn't hear one of the facts, or they heard a fact that others didn't hear. And so that's how juries come to different conclusions. Otherwise, they'll all come to the same conclusion because they're faced with the same facts. Yes, sir.
What's your biggest motive running for president, or running for mayor?
I will not be running for president. That is a job that someone else can have. My motive was just to improve our community. I mean, the way I looked at it back then, my kids were very young, and I only had the twins at that point, and my attitude was, I'd like to make this place better for my family, and in doing so, I'll be doing it for all of Johns Creek's families.
In what ways would you say that you did that? How would you say that you improved? What were some ways that you helped?
So when I was fighting for cityhood, we're 32 square miles, which may not sound very big, but that's a large area. There were only 2 police cars patrolling Johns Creek at any given time. Why is that important? Well, if there's only 2 cars trying to cover 32 miles, you can imagine what kind of shenanigans can happen around Johns Creek. Today, we have a police department of over 70 sworn officers, and we are the safest large city in Georgia and one of the safest cities in America. Safety is kind of an important thing. Our roads were crumbling around us. I don't know how many of you all have driven or ridden in a car lately through the city of Atlanta. It's a big debate as part of the mayoral debate that's happening right now. Their crumbling infrastructure, our roads. We've repaved almost every single square mile of roads in Johns Creek since I've been mayor. That's a big deal. Our parks were not maintained. We've built new parks since I've been mayor. Those are big deals. One of the greatest parks we built is a dog park. That dog park is visited by folks all over the country who actually plan time so their dogs can pee and poop in our city. That's a big deal. So those are the kinds of things that we've done, and I'm proud of it. Look, I leave office very proud of the accomplishments. My problem is I'm always focused on what could have been, so I also leave office very disappointed that interpolitics of the council got in the way of getting a lot more done. Yes, sir.
Before Johns Creek was a city and wasn't attached to Alpharetta or Roswell, who was in charge of the land?
The Fulton County Commission was both the city and the county rulers, so to speak. We took power away from the county. That's why they fought against us at the time. Yes, ma'am.
What's the biggest piece of advice you could give to us?
Biggest piece of advice I can give to you is think. Let me tell you what the goal of most elected officials is in America today. For you not to think. For you to accept the information that's fed to you in social media, the media, in any other form. Don't read and accept the information that's in front of you. I don't care what source it's from. Think for yourself and ask yourself a logical question. Why? What? How? That's what will make you a great leader. I don't accept just because someone tells me something that it's true. I research it for myself and I figure it out. Yeah, it's a lot of work to do that. But guess what? You won't embarrass yourself when you find out later that you were wrong. Any other questions?
Poor me is going to come up. I just want to tell you guys that when I went to him 4 years ago and said, what would you think about kids doing the debate in Johns Creek? He could have easily